Have you ever wondered why the very things a man hides from you in words become the chains that pull him closer in silence? Most women are told that men fear vulnerability, that desire is always born from confidence and control. Yet Carl Jung taught that what is suppressed in the shadow does not vanish, it grows in power. And so, what you think pushes him away, the fragments of his hidden longings and secret wounds, may actually be the invisible threads that bind his attraction to you more fiercely than anything he openly admits. Tonight, we enter the world of shadow desires, the realm of truths he cannot confess yet will obey when summoned by your presence. He walks through the world armored in the image of certainty. To his peers he is decisive, to his family he is strong, and to himself he clings to the mask of rational independence. But beneath this facade exists a restless landscape where unspoken yearnings flicker like embers beneath the ashes. Jung named this the unconscious shadow, the domain of impulses too raw for the ego to accept, yet too powerful to be extinguished. When he meets a woman who stirs these undercurrents, the balance between his armor and his hidden needs shatters. And you, often without realizing it, become the mirror that reflects his secret longings back at him, forcing him to feel what he pretends not to crave. There is a desire for surrender. He would never confess it, but somewhere deep within, the warrior longs to lay down his sword and be seen not as conqueror but as man. The paradox is intoxicating: the stronger his outer image, the more forceful his hidden craving to release control in safe hands. When a woman embodies calm, unwavering self-possession, she unconsciously whispers to his shadow, "You may rest here." He will never say this aloud, for his ego clings to the illusion of mastery. Yet in her presence, his body, his gaze, even his silence begins to betray the obedience of one who secretly yearns for a sanctuary beyond control. There is also the hunger for mystery. Men often project onto women the anima, Jung's vision of the feminine soul image. He may scoff at the idea of mysticism, he may claim he prefers the predictable, but his shadow thirsts for the woman who cannot be fully solved. Predictability starves his unconscious, while enigma feeds it. A woman who carries mystery, through pauses, through silence, through the refusal to rush to explanation, touches that archetype in him. And in touching it, she awakens the irrational loyalty that binds his attraction to her. He cannot admit that what confuses him makes him follow, but his shadow obeys the allure of what it cannot fully grasp. The third desire is for confrontation with his own depth. Most men escape from themselves by drowning in distraction, work, noise, ambition, conquest. But the shadow longs for a mirror that forces him to face what he avoids. A woman who does not flatter his ego, but instead reveals the hollowness of his performance, becomes both his torment and his magnetic pull. He will argue, resist, push against her clarity, yet he will orbit her presence because she reawakens the man within the armor, the one his ego has long silenced. This confrontation terrifies him, yet in secret, he obeys it, because somewhere within he knows it is the key to his own becoming. So when you feel him restless in your presence, when his words say one thing but his eyes burn with another, understand this: it is not confusion, it is shadow obedience. He is responding to forces he cannot name. And those forces, when awakened, do not bow to his pride. They bow to the woman who embodies the balance of depth, mystery, and unshakable self-possession. The shadow does not speak in words, it speaks in impulses, contradictions, and silent obedience. When a man stands before a woman who embodies the archetype of the awakened feminine, his carefully rehearsed defenses begin to dissolve. He may try to hold himself steady, to anchor in reason, but desire does not move through logic. Jung believed that the unconscious compels us toward wholeness, and when a man encounters a woman who embodies the very traits he represses, the pull is both terrifying and irresistible. His shadow hungers not for perfection but for the forbidden, the emotions he has denied, the tenderness he has buried, the longings he swore he did not need. One of these shadow desires is the unspoken need to be chosen, not for his performance, not for his conquests, but for his essence. He presents the image of strength, the self-made man, the one who carries responsibility without complaint. Yet beneath it all lies the silent plea, see me when I am not strong. This desire is not about weakness, it is about the liberation from performance. When a woman's gaze penetrates beyond his mask, refusing to confuse his titles with his truth, his body relaxes, his resistance falters. He cannot admit he longs for this, he will claim he thrives on admiration, yet his shadow bends only to the woman who recognizes his humanity rather than his achievements. Another hidden craving, the thrill of unpredictability. Men often insist that they want stability, predictability, order. But the shadow rebels against monotony. The deeper psyche craves rupture, moments that destabilize the carefully controlled rhythm of daily life. A woman who carries within her the flame of spontaneity, the sudden laughter, the unplanned gesture, the refusal to be predictable, unsettles him in ways he cannot rationalize. His ego resists, wanting the comfort of patterns, but his shadow obeys the call of surprise, for it reminds him that he is alive beyond his duties. In her presence, the man discovers the boy who still burns with curiosity, and this discovery chains his attraction more tightly than any calculated seduction could. And then there is the paradox of resistance. Men will often push against a woman's boundaries, testing, probing, searching for weakness. But what he does not realize is that his shadow desires not the woman who yields too quickly, but the woman whose boundaries remain unshaken. For resistance awakens his unconscious need to be contained, to encounter something stronger than his impulses. In that resistance, he senses a rare kind of power, not power over him, but power that holds him accountable to his better self. His pride will not allow him to confess this, for he fears it would strip him of dominance. Yet in truth, his attraction bends most deeply to the woman who does not surrender what is sacred within her. Imagine this, his body leans closer though his words pull away, his gestures betray longing while his lips speak restraint. This is the dance of shadow obedience. He does not know why he follows your silence more than your speech, why he remembers your absence more than your presence, why his restlessness grows the moment you withdraw. But you know. You sense that his soul bows to the currents he cannot name, that his desire is not ruled by his conscious will but by the forces in him that have long been starved. It is here, in this sacred tension, that feminine empowerment awakens. For the woman who understands the language of the shadow does not chase, does not plead, does not attempt to convince. She embodies, she holds, she reveals. And in doing so, she becomes not the seeker of his attention but the keeper of his obedience, an obedience born not of domination but of unconscious devotion. In the dim corridors of his psyche, another unspoken longing waits, the hunger for reverence. This is not adoration for his ego, but a quiet acknowledgement of his inner essence. Most men have been conditioned to earn approval through action, accomplish, provide, conquer, and yet their shadow aches for the rare moment when they are seen without the trophies, stripped of performance. When a woman offers authentic recognition of his essence rather than his achievements, it penetrates his defenses like a blade of light. He cannot name this desire because it feels dangerous, even shameful, but his unconscious bows to it. In that moment, he does not merely feel admired, he feels known. But his shadow holds yet another contradiction, the longing to be guided, even led. Outwardly, he clings to autonomy, insisting on his role as protector and decider. Inwardly, there are parts of him that crave the experience of surrender, not in humiliation, but in trust. The anima within him, the inner feminine archetype, yearns for balance, for moments when he does not need to direct the course but can rest in the presence of a woman's intuitive compass. When she leads not with force but with calm certainty, when she radiates an energy that is self-assured yet receptive, his shadow recognizes sanctuary. He cannot admit he desires to follow, but his instincts shift, his steps fall into her rhythm, his words soften, his resistance turns to attentiveness. There is also the unvoiced craving for ritual. In the modern world of constant movement, most men suppress the need for sacred repetition, for acts that mark meaning beyond routine. His shadow remembers the archetypal fires, moments of stillness, of significance, of depth. When a woman embodies her own rituals, her pauses, her care for her space, the quiet gravitas of her presence, she calls forth in him the memory of reverence. He does not consciously obey this, rather, he finds himself aligning with her cadence, respecting her pauses, moving in harmony with her tempo. This is not manipulation. It is archetypal resonance, her embodiment stirs his forgotten longing for depth. These shadow desires weave a paradox. He claims to crave freedom but is drawn to containment, he speaks of power but obeys mystery, he acts invulnerable but hungers to be chosen beyond his performance. All of this is the realm Jung described as the shadow, the unintegrated, the denied, the unseen. And when a woman moves with awareness of these forces, she does not merely attract, she transforms. She becomes the mirror in which his unconscious begins to see itself. His responses shift. His posture softens. His loyalty deepens not because she demands it, but because he feels, at last, the gravitational pull of authenticity. For you, this knowledge is not a script to manipulate him, it is a key to your own sovereignty. The feminine archetype that awakens his shadow desires is not a performance but a presence. It is the stillness inside you that does not bargain for his attention, the clarity that does not collapse under his testing, the subtle mystery that does not rush to reveal itself. When you embody this, you cease being an object of pursuit and become the axis around which his shadow turns. He will not call it obedience, but in his actions, his gestures, his sudden tenderness, you will see it manifest. You do not need to reach for it. You do not need to explain it. The shadow is older than his ego, and it knows how to recognize what it has been starved for. When you stand, there is a final paradox within his shadow that bends him most deeply, the desire for dissolution. To the outer world, he clings to form, titles, roles, structure, accomplishment. But in the hidden regions of his psyche, he longs to dissolve into something larger than himself. Jung called this the movement toward individuation, the merging of conscious and unconscious into wholeness. He may not know this language, but he feels its pull. In your presence, if you embody your own wholeness, you awaken in him a strange intoxication, the sense that love is not conquest but disappearance, not possession but transcendence. This frightens him, for it threatens the very walls his ego built. Yet his shadow craves it, and in that craving he obeys a current more ancient than reason. This obedience is never about domination, it is about recognition. When you stand rooted in your own worth, his unconscious senses that it has met something immovable, something beyond manipulation. That is why he follows, why he bends, why he cannot forget the resonance of your presence. He may never confess it in words, but his body speaks in proximity, in softness, in the way his eyes search yours when silence falls. His shadow knows he has found the mirror he both feared and needed. For the woman, this knowledge carries both power and responsibility. To awaken a man's shadow desires is not to trap him, it is to reveal him to himself. Many women fall into the temptation of using this awareness to control, to secure, to bind. But control is the language of ego, not of shadow. True empowerment arises when you recognize that his obedience is not your goal, but the natural consequence of your embodiment. You do not need to chase, nor beg, nor bargain. The feminine that stands in her sovereignty becomes magnetic not by effort, but by essence. In this realization, a transformation occurs. You are no longer waiting for him to validate your presence, no longer fearing his withdrawal, no longer negotiating your worth through his attention. Instead, you stand as the archetypal mirror, the presence that evokes both his terror and his devotion. Whether he chooses to rise to meet that depth is not your burden, it is his path, his confrontation with himself. You need not carry it. And so, as the shadows move between you, remember this: what he cannot admit is often what shapes him most. What he resists is often what he craves. And what he obeys is not your demand, but the silent authority of your embodied worth. You are not here to save him, nor to complete him. You are here to stand whole, to embody mystery, to radiate sovereignty. In doing so, you awaken the hidden currents he cannot name, and whether he resists or surrenders, he will never forget the gravity of what he has touched. This is the liberation Jung hinted at, the dance of opposites, the reconciliation of shadow and light. For when you cease to seek obedience, you discover something greater: freedom. Freedom from chasing, from waiting, from performing for love. You become the axis of your own world, unshaken whether he stays or whether he leaves. And in that freedom, the shadow finds no foothold to bind you. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.